Hello everyone, Jai Hind and welcome to the platform of StudyIQ IAS in English. My name is Bhavar Singh Surya, MX India 115th course, and I welcome you on the platform. Now over here we are talking about the Cockroach Janta Party and the National Parasitic Front as well, which had been in news recently, and you must have seen that they are going viral. So we'll be seeing or we'll be understanding the youth aspirations as well as freedom of speech and the satire in the India's digital democracy through this complete video and this complete session. Now, over here, how this all started or how a court hearing ignited the internet wildfire that we are seeing right now. So there was a court hearing and there were controversial remarks that were, passed on in this court hearing. And there was the public backlash, and later on there was a clarification that was issued. So over here what happened was the overall observation we have to understand that they are actually not the formal judgments, but they carry the immense symbol weight or symbolic weight, and the internet took one word and ultimately it ran with it. And that is how these two of the different satirical forms they were given the birth. So that is the birth of the CJP or the NPF. So Gen Z, it didn't protested about these words or the oral observation that were made in the court, but actually they memed and ultimately turned out the derogatory labels into the badges of honor. So there is Cockroach Janta Party, and it was founded on 16th May by Abhijit Dipke. He is a 30-year-old PR graduate, and the slogan for this, is that it is a political front of the youth, by the youth, for the youth, secular, socialist, democratic, lazy. And there is more than 9 million of the followers on the Instagram in just 4 days, and that has surpassed the major of the mainstream parties which are there. At the same time, there is another party, or we have the satirical party that is there. It is National Parasitic Front or the NPF. Now, it had emerged soon after the CJP as a satirical official opposition, and the slogan is that we do not latch on, we transform, or chipkenge nahi, badlenge yahi. Alright, the role is basically pushing for the actual institutional reforms within the humorous interactive framework, and that is the NPF or National Parasitic Front that you are seeing over here. Now, when it comes to the political satire, it is basically a democratic value, because when it comes to political satire, it is a genre that uses the humor and irony and even the exaggeration to expose the institutional folly, corruption as well as systemic failure as well. Now, there are the democratic functions as well, because it acts as a safety wall where the citizens, they can vent out their frustrations safely without any kind of violent protest that is there. At the same time, there is de-escalation as well that lowers the temperature of the polarized environments, and even there is the democratic equalizer which strips away the intimidating aura of power, and it makes the authority accountable as well. Now, there is, you can understand this with the example of overbearing umpire in the gully cricket. Now, what happens is that the umpire who owns the bat, he makes an unfair call and he calls the kids lazy and clueless. Now, over here, what happens is that the kids, they cannot fight back. Alright, they cannot fight back because ultimately that will, what will happen is that they will lose the bat, ball as well as the pitch. So what they do is they mimic the walk of the umpire. Alright, at the same time, they write rhymes about his legendary blindness and name their team Blind Empires 11. Alright, so ultimately this results into what? This results into anger, which is replaced by the laughter. And the authority peacefully questioned, and ultimately the dignity had been preserved. And that is how the satire, it works in the complete atmosphere. Now, there are the real issues which are hidden behind this ridicule, or there are the satirical manifestos as well of both the parties. The Cockroach Janta Party, it is the voice of the lazy and unemployed, and represents the youth economic planning which forgot to count. At the same time, there is also radical 5-point mock manifesto addressing the unemployment, demanding accountability for paper leaks and delayed recruitments, and even humorous passive resistance claiming laziness as a structural right. Now, this points out to the major problems that are there in our society right now. And that is that there is unemployment. At the same time, there is also the paper leaks that we have seen in the context of the NEET UG exam, where the paper leak have occurred as well. When it comes to the National Parasitic Front, its manifesto is the constructive opposition. The slogan is that we do not latch on, we transform. It exposes the systemic rot by infiltrating broken processes, and it focuses on the policy critique and accountability and citizen action. The satirical proposals are for the administrative transparency, as had been mentioned in its manifesto. Now over here, it is very important to read between the lines or read into the lines, and over here the mock actually demands for the right to sleep late, mask the real cries about the paper leaks, job scarcity, and even the exam anxiety that is there. And that is how you have to understand why these actually portrays the real problem that is there in India as well. Now there had been rise of the meme politics in India. When it comes to the earlier, so in earlier period, you must have seen that there were political cartoons by R.K. Lakshman, and they were there in the newspaper column space. Today, anyone with a smartphone, he can create a meme or she can create a meme. So the proof is that we have CJP that have surpassed the established political parties in Instagram following in just 4 days and with zero budgeting. And the theory is about the digital public sphere, that is a space where the citizens, they freely deliberate outside state and even the market control that is there. Alright, now there are certain legal and constitutional dimensions as well. When it comes to the right to freedom of speech and expression that is there in the Article 19(1)(a), and it includes also the right to criticize, right to joke, and right to express dissent. The satire is basically fully within the ambit of Article 19(1)(a) that is there. Also in the Supreme Court, there was a case of Shreya Singhal versus Union of India in 2015, where the Supreme Court have struck down Section 66A of the IT Act. Over here, it had protected the online dissent and the satirical post from the arbitrary arrest as well. Then there is Contempt of Court Act as well that was passed in 1971. Over here, Section 5, it gives, or it is for the fair criticism. Over here, the publishing of the fair comments on a case or administrative action is actually not treated as the contempt of the court. So this is the balancing act that needs to be understood. That is where does this harmless satire, it ends, and even the scandalizing of the court, it begins. So that is again a question that should be kept in mind while just browsing through these satirical expressions which are there. Now, at the same time, it is also very pertinent that there are socio-economic crises that these satirical parties, they portray. When it comes to the demographic dividend paradox, so more than 65% of our population, it is below 35. And they are not with sufficient jobs. This dividend, it becomes the demographic disaster that we have in our country right now. They are educated, employed, where the graduates, they are deemed to be unemployable because of the curriculum industry mismatch. Also, there are years of UPSC and PCS banking preparation which had been ruined by the paper leaks and the recruitment delays as well. So over here, this is the psychological toll that this is all talking about, where it had been labeled as lazy and parasitic under the structural conditions that actually block the employment, and ultimately it triggers the extreme alienation as well. And the result is that we have seen that it is the digital counter mobilization which had happened in India or on the social media platforms. Now over here, it is very important that it is not that the government is not doing anything. The government is also working hard, and there are certain constructive reforms that you can see. It is in the form of skill development, where we have PM Kaushal Vikas Yojana, which bridges the skill to employability gap. Alright, there are Startup India and the Stand Up India programs as well that fosters the entrepreneurship over the job dependence as well. When it comes to the exam integrity, so there is Public Examination Prevention of Unfair Means Act 2024. There are harsh penalties for the paper leaks and for the cheating syndicates as well. And that restores the faith in the competitive recruitment in India. And there are policy blueprints where we have the National Youth Policy that goes, or it gives, or it actually promotes the empowerment, education, employment, mental health of the youths in India. There is also Niti Aayog, which is aligning the curricula of the country with the AI, with green energy and gig economy demands that we are seeing in the country or the sectors which are rising in the country. But at the same time, there are certain harsh realities and the hard realities about the Indian youth that is there in our country. When it comes to the educated employment, so youth unemployment rate among the graduates, it is between 16.5 to 18% as per the PLFS survey. Also, when it comes to the urban youth, so between 20 to 24 age bracket, the estimated unemployment is more than 40%. And there are more than 850 million of the active internet users which are there in India. Predominantly, they are below 30, and that enables the instant satirical mobilization that we have seen in the past few days. Now, there is also Sustainable Development Goal 8 that is there, and it is about the decent work and economic growth, where formal jobs are growing slower than the educational qualification rates that we are seeing in India right now. And there is Sustainable Development Goal 16 as well, that is for peace, justice and strong institutions. Here, the inclusive decision making and the youth voice is also very important when it comes to the governance. So, I will leave at this point. All right. At the same time, I think that now you have a complete understanding why we have discussed this satirical political parties which had been formed over the social media and how they portrays the grim realities about Indian society as well as the Indian scenario that is there in front of us. All right. It also connects not just your polity, it connects the society as well, and even the paper 4 of your GS, that is ethics. Now, if you are preparing for the UPSC Civil Services 2027 or for 2028, the batches have just begun. They have just started, and ultimately you can join these batches. For the GS Foundation course, we have Resolution P2I batch, and over here you can use the code that is BRS Live for getting the maximum discount. Alright, so that would be all in this video, but do not forget to like, share as well as subscribe to our channel. And after subscribing, do not forget to push the bell icon for the notification as well, so that you do not miss any of the updates in the future. So that would be all. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care and Jai Hind. I will see you in the next. Please do take care till then. Thank you and Jai Hind.